was an old alcoholic who ran moonshine in Arkansas like you see on old hillbilly movies. That shit was real. You know, they were doing that. And he died of alcoholism at 86 years old. You know, and I could remember walking in his house and smelling poop and pee and just, it was nasty, man. But I loved it because I was his favorite and he let me do whatever because he was too drunk to care. Right? My father was the second generation of that. My father was an addict. He was way more hardcore than alcoholism. Both take you to the same darkness. Both take you to a place of despair and brokenness. But my dad needed a needle, and I needed my daddy. And through the process of recovery, that's why I found out I always needed everybody else. Because growing up, I had this void in me. Because when I needed him, he wasn't there. So all of a sudden, I needed everybody, right? And that's what I learned through working steps in recovery and working on myself and starting to learn who I really am. And so I'm toting all this baggage around. Now, in the process of my pops going in and out of prison, now I watched him get arrested on murder charges. I watched my daddy get rape charges. I watched him get robbery charges. Like, this dude literally lived like a modern-day Ragnar Lothbrok. He was a real Viking, man. He wasn't afraid of any consequence, and that was the environment that I was raised in. So by the time I'm 11 years old, I've already stabbed and shot a kid, you know? And it wasn't because I was out there thugging with a pistol. I was left unattended with a gun at 11 years old and shot the kid I was playing with. You see what I'm saying? At 4, the little boy slapped my hand. I stabbed him in the shoulder with a potato peeler. That's the atmosphere that I was brought up in. My natural instinct when he slapped my hand was to yoke him. That's insanity, man. My kid will never experience that. I get locked up at 14 years old. They hold me till I'm 16. Something really screwed up happened in between there, and this is why the incarcerated population is so important to me. I escaped the juvenile facility at 15. I caught a theft charge, and they charged me as an adult. Now I'm still a kid doing time in the children's in the juvenile system. I'm in the Division of Youth Services with an adult charge, and they give me probation as an adult at 15. So when I'm released at 16, guess where I'm already at? I'm already in a system that I can never get out of. So the first time I screw up as a 16-year-old, it's my first adult probation revocation. So at 17, I'm in the county jail for a drive-by indulging in criminal gang activity. I'm from North Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a city nationally known for gang violence. It's been on HBO a couple of times. Like, back in the 90s, it was really rough. And so at 18, I'm in Varner, which is, you know, one of the worst prisons in Arkansas. It taught me two things: that there was nothing there for me to be scared of, and that doing time was not going to be hard for me. And so it was the start of a long, hard life. I'm 38 by the time I come home that last time, and something magical happened. Instead of going and getting high, I found myself in an atmosphere of recovery. So instead of going to the dope house on the day I got released, I went to a recovery meeting, and I heard some things. And this is where lived experience really comes in, because the only thing that really changed was the messenger, not the message. There were a lot of people who tried to help, man. There were a lot of teachers and preachers. There were a lot of psychiatrists, a lot of professionals in the prison who were able to reach me because I wouldn't give them a chance. It wasn't that they weren't good at what they were doing. It wasn't that they weren't qualified. They were probably the best in the business. I wasn't willing to listen to them. I was afraid they would be condescending. I was afraid they would judge me. But when it was a person in recovery who I knew had did the same thing I had done, suddenly that fear of being judged was removed, man. And so he broke that ice in seconds. But I'm going to tell you, man, it was an accident how I got to recovery. Throughout my time, I had and you can read about it. I think John brought you guys some books. There's a section in there I made underground music, and so I made music with Little White from 3-6 and Bubba Sparks and Big Smo and Haystack, and I was touring all over the South on the underground. Well, there was this girl that had been following my music for a long time, and so she had been writing me. And you know how it is when you get that mail and you're doing time and you don't know who she, I'm like, ooh, that's a commissary sack. You know, so I hurry up and write her back, and it was not my wife. So I don't want y'all to think that. But she, so this girl, she's writing me, and I'm like, man, I got a pending charge. There's no way I'm going to get out of here unless I can get into a rehab. And so she gets me accepted into this free house, kind of like McShin's recovery housing. And I knew that that was my only way to manipulate the system. Only way a judge wasn't going to nail me to the cross with my history was if I went somewhere to actually get some help. As long as I don't get high, I might have a chance. That's in my mind, right? Now, by the time I get out, I can't wait to get high. And so this girl calls the house I'm at, and she's like, hey, I'm going to come get you. I said, bet. So in my mind, we're going to go down here to the park because I just came home today, right? So y'all know what's on my mind. Same thing's on your mind when you first go home from jail. And she said, I'm going to come get you and we're going to go to a meeting. Well, I thought that meant we're going to go to the park and do the nasty. So she came and got me, Sheriff. Guess where she took me? And I was mad as hell. I was mad. She really took to a meeting. So I'm sitting in there and I'm rocking back and forth on my hands. And I'm like, well, maybe we can go to the park after the meeting. And then she took me back to my Kim Free house, but it was just enough for me to want to go back to the meeting tomorrow. But you know what? I heard something I had never heard before that day in that meeting. And this is real, man. The guy was sharing, he said, you know, when I sold my TV to get a sack, I didn't have a drug problem. I had an entertainment. I didn't have a drug problem. I had come on, y'all, transportation problem. You had the same car, huh? And it just really resonated with me, man. And so for the first time in my life, I realized, damn, never did it occur to me that it was the drugs. You know, and so all of a sudden this light bulb went off. And I wanted some more of that hope because dude was speaking my language. And recovery isn't a language from anything other than the heart. When you speak from the Spirit, you're going to reach the Spirit, man. And that's something that every one of you sitting here right now are uniquely qualified because nobody knows the pain of being snatched away from something we love like you. Nobody knows the hopelessness and the despair of sitting in a cell through a quarantine like you. So when it's time to reach that population of people that society says is unreachable and unteachable, you prove that lie to be a lie. Because we are reachable, we are teachable, and we are worth saving. And the greatest weapon that they've got to do that is us. And so seeing a sheriff open doors up to make that type of reality possible is a beautiful thing. And you know, so I fall in love with recovery, man. And I got to tell you this before I get to the next part of my story. Along the way, there's this real hard-nosed cop. You know, every city's got that asshole cop, right? Y'all know the one in your neighborhood? Arrest everybody? Well, in my neighborhood, his name was Kirk Lane. And he was yay tall. You know, I saw him when he was a patrolman. I saw him when he had a mullet. I saw him when he was undercover. I saw him when he got promoted to captain. I saw him when he took over the drug task force, the criminal. I mean, this guy, I watched him climb his entire career ladder. And honestly, a lot of it was on cases where he arrested me. And I'm going to tell you what, when I say I was not a smart criminal, this is why. I did one more. This is an example. Kirk Lane didn't just arrest me. He arrested my entire family. He arrested my friends. This dude was the freaking boogeyman. Like when we saw a tall, bald dude, we got paranoid. We hit our sack like it was him. Like, and he's going to get whoever he's after. That's the type of cop he, like Training Day, like Denzel, except tall and white, you know. And so, I mean, he was notoriously known for busting people. And so Kirk, one day, I get up and I do what any good person trapped in the disease of addiction does. I get up and go hit a lick. So I'm going to go 150 miles this way and I'm going to rob this house, y'all. And I go in and I go way over here because, see, my best thinking told me I was being slick because I'm not gonna use the bathroom where I live, right? So I'm going to go out of town and do the dirt. So I go 150 miles over here and I hit this lick. I break in this house. And this is years ago. They, you know, did they have Hastings up here? They ever have Hastings? So back then you could go in Hastings and you could sell all your DVDs. And so I steal this rare set of animation DVDs, right? And so in my mind, I'm doing the math. $2 a disc. I'm going to get an 8-ball in a hotel room, right? Well, here's where my ingenious criminology kicks in. So since I went 3 counties this way to hit the lick, I ain't getting caught for, So I'm going to go 3 counties this way to sell them, right? Sheriff, you following me? So I go way over here to a Hastings. Now, I go in, I lay the DVDs down on the counter. I get a guy my ID, Sheriff. I got 7 years for this, so you ain't got to charge me. I've already been arrested. So I give him my ID, and he counts all this stuff up, and he's like, man, I got to call my manager over here because these are pretty rare, and I don't have enough money in my register to pay for these. I'm like, shit. Go get your boss, you know? And so he goes over here, and he gets his boss, and his boss comes over, and he says, hey, man, you've got great taste. I got that same movie. And he turned the page and he says, wow, I got that one too. I didn't think anybody else around here had this collection. And he turned the page and he said, man, where did you get these? I said, they're mine. Why? He said, no, I'm serious. Where did you get these? And he turned the page and he said, holy shit. He said, I've got to go call my house. Out of all the stores I could have went into and all the houses I could have robbed, Sheriff, I sold that man his own stuff. What's the odds of that? Huh? God had a plan, right? And so I get 7 years for that. Think about that. What are the chances, man? I went 150 miles over here to break in a house. I went 150 miles in the opposite direction to sell what I stole. And I stole and sold it to the same. That's insane. That's a true story, man. I got 7 years for that. Now I come home, and it was Kirk and his team that got me for that. Now I come home. This is another example. I'm a terrible crook, man. And so if you're relating to this, you are too. I go, again, I'm going to do what addicts do best. I'm going to go hit a lick, right? And so I go, and this time I take a couple of guys with me, and there's a safe in the house. And so I don't want to carry it because, I just came home. I'm kind of lazy, been sleeping all day. But I'm going to go outside and smoke a cigarette. So I go outside, and I'm smoking the cigarette while they're carrying the safe out. Now, I'm in these folks' garage while I smoke this cigarette. You ever smoke a cigarette? I hope you don't do what I did. I throw the cigarette over here in the garage. I'm not even thinking. So next thing I know, I got the Kirk Lane beating on my door talking about DNA from a cigarette butt. Guess what they gave me? 7 years. So this is twice my addiction and Kirk Lane have landed me in prison. Actually, I landed myself there. But these are the two utensils that God used to build the life I'm living today. And I'll bring this all to the point of the story in a second. I come home again. I told you I'm from North Little Rock. So I'm the only white guy where I live on West 24th for 17 blocks in all directions. It's me and my pop. That's it. And so I'm fresh out of the penitentiary. I got prison ink on both arms. I'm in a tank top T-shirt. I step out on my front porch and I make a sale to a confidential informant. Guess who's sitting across the street identifying me? Kirk Lane. Now I say that to say this. Again, I am the worst criminal. I am the only white guy for 17 blocks. So identifying me was easy. It was not a hard task. Guess how many years I got? 7 damn years. So Arkansas's got these 3 things in common. 7 years, Kirk Lane, and drugs, right? And Jimmy. And so this is my life now. Now here it is. I'm in recovery. I've been clean for about 18 months. I'm on fire for recovery. And in Arkansas at this point, nobody's really recovering out loud. That's not even a thing down there yet. They're like, man, they were trying to kill us, y'all. They didn't want a solution. They're like, man, you don't go out there. We don't do that. And I'm like, I can't shut up about it. This is not getting high. And I done met a girl, real one, like Pinocchio. I don't mean one in the trap house with a sack. And my relationship's not built on who's got the dope, me or her. Like the first conversation Chelsea and I really had was, I tell people this all the time. She basically came up to me and told me, pull my pants up, turn my hat around, you're too old and you look stupid. I fell in love with her on the spot. I didn't know if I wanted to fight her or date her. But I'm going to tell you what, I slept beside the West Memphis 3 in prison. I did time with the blue light rapist. Me and the I-40 sniper ended up being best friends. I did time with little 30 who sacrificed his sister in some kind of satanic ritual. Like I knew real killers that wouldn't talk to me like she had just talked to me. And that was a phenomenal to me. I mean, it was insane. And she had a job and an apartment. And it just worked, man. And so from that moment on, that was my first real intimate relationship. The next thing you know, I'm approaching it the right way. I'm investing God into it. Met her parents. We're married. We have a home. We've got a son. It's great, right? And I get an invitation. Now, I say all that to say this. I almost got sidetracked. Kirk Lane. I get asked to go share my story at the state capitol. And so the recovery community's like, man, don't do that. We don't do that. Hey, we keep it. That's not what we do. And I'm like, I'm doing it. I can't shut up. And so I go up to the Capitol. Now there's a new drug czar. I didn't even know what a drug czar was. But our drug czar is appointed by the governor. He's like the second person in charge. And he's over all treatment, all prevention, all recovery, and in Arkansas, all law enforcement. And so I'm looking, I'm getting ready to get on the microphone, and I look, and I'm like, there's no way. And there he is. Tall, bald, Kirk Lane. And this time he ain't got a gun on him or a badge on him. But he's in a suit, and he's got this little gold pin on him. And he's just been appointed by the governor to be over all those things. He's the new drug czar. And so I go up to my wife's like, are you sure that's him? Because I don't think he I'm like, that's him. I ain't never forgetting him. You know? And so I go up to him, and I shake his hand. I say, man, it is good to see you. And he said, it's good to see you too. And I knew right then he ain't have the slightest clue of who I was. See, Rick, I say that to say this. The transformative power of recovery was so amazing that he didn't even know who I was. The same dude that held me accountable and put me in prison multiple times didn't recognize me. This dude saw me when addiction had me in its grip. And he saw me when recovery had me in it, cradling me. And he couldn't tell he didn't know. He didn't know. And so they call my name, and I get up on the microphone, and I start roasting him. I mean, tearing his ass up. I said the only 3 things I wanted to do were get high, get more high, and hide from Kirk Lane. And I mean, they was just cracking up. There's several hundred people out there. It was me, the head of the DEA, which is crazy because I'm on parole fighting charge. The FBI, the head of the FBI for Arkansas, the new drug czar, Kirk, the governor's senior advisor, and then me, the addict on parole. That's the speaker lineup. But something magical happened that night. Kirk come up to me afterwards, he hugged me and he shook my hand and he said, man, he said, my team is telling me I need to get with you, Jimmy. He said, can we have lunch? And I went home with Chelsea and I told her, I said, man, I don't know what's happening right now, but I can feel God doing something, man. And there is no other way for me to tell you, but I knew. You ever had that feeling when you just knew something good was fixing to happen, and the next thing you know, you got a check? That's the type of feeling I'm talking about. It was like Jeremiah 29:11 that God had planned this whole time was coming to fruition, like it was coming to reality, man. And all of a sudden, Kirk and I would go to lunch, and he said, man, you know, my entire mindset was arrest, arrest, arrest. You know, he grew up in the and police. You know, their job was to clean up the streets and protect their community, and he tried to arrest his way out of the problem, right? So he said, but I see now that people do recover. And so in that one night, my story, your story, the same story I'm telling that you've got, influenced one of the most influential power pieces in the state to believing that people in addiction don't need locked up, but need help to find treatment so that they can recover. My story shifted his perception. And the next thing you know, we're speaking all over the state. We're going to colleges. And he says, hey, man, he said, I'm going to have a job opening up. I'm like, man, get out the ass, man. I'm literally on parole with a pending drug charge, you know. Because when I came home, I was on parole, and I hadn't been sentenced yet for that last arrest. And he said, it's going to be a hard fight, but if you want it and you're willing, I'll fight it with you. And so I had 3 years clean when he hired me. 3 years clean. Now, it was against policy, so he had to go to the governor. And so he went to Governor Asa Hutchinson, and he said, hey, I want to hire Jimmy McGill. And the governor said, what? He said, he's got how many felonies? Are you sure about this? And Kirk said, man, he's the guy for the job. And the governor trusted Kirk, and he signed off on that waiver. And so all of a sudden, I'm on parole inside DHS, which is the biggest state agency in any state. And nobody wants to be in the office with me because they give me a state badge, right? And they gave me a set of car keys. They're still waiting on the car to come up missing, right? And they gave me a gas card so I can drive anywhere, right? Like the impossible had happened. When society said it's against, there's no way, it's impossible, a felon, a parolee, a pending charge, they cannot work for the Department of Human Services. And God said, I said it can. So when the world said it couldn't, he said it could. And when he said the rules don't really apply to him. And so that's the beauty of my story, man. And so all of a sudden we changed policy and procedures. But then they came and they said, well, it's against the law. And it was. Even after they hired me and we changed policy and we changed procedures, the world, the same people that say that you guys ain't going to be shit, said that I can't have that state career because it's in statute. So guess what? The next thing you know, I'm being called to the Senate. Next thing I know, I'm testifying in front of the House. And I'm freaking out. Next thing you know, the governor's signing a new law. And we changed state law that people with a criminal history can and should work in the role of a recovery specialist. People like us, man. And so I may have been the first, but now there are over 500 state. And I've got to lead that charge, man. I'm talking people like you, people who just come home working in drug courts making $40,000 a year, man. for their life experience. And I'm not disregarding education. Education's wonderful. I'm glad you went to school for 8 years. Guess what you were studying, me? So don't disregard what I know. Because I would happily trade my sexual abuse, my hepatitis C, my homelessness. I would give it all up for that 4-year education. But I can't. But what I can do is use it to help somebody. Recovery is the only place where you can take every mistake you've ever made, and all of a sudden it becomes on-the-job training. Every embarrassing thing that you ever went through has got meaning and purpose. And I don't care what they say about you. We're champions. You can take any normal person and put them where you come from. You know what we call them? A lick. We're the only breed of people that can get up at 6 in the morning homeless and finish the day with a shot of dope, enough money to eat in a hotel room. Right? You know what I'm talking about. You look like you got a room still. We got a purpose, man. And don't miss that calling. And I say all that to say this. Regardless of the plethora of self-imposed disadvantages that I had in my life, God still carved a way out for me to have a life that is undescribable, amazing. Everything came full circle. The last jail I was in was the first jail I put a recovery program in. Now, today, I oversee 10 jails with recovery programs. I've got a prison training academy. My wife and I have started a 40-bed facility for recovering people. And the first 2 weeks are completely free. Right? Because the problem is, Sheriff, when we come home from jail, we ain't got rent money. And when we come out the dope house, we smoke the rent money. You know, and so all of a sudden, everything had a reason. And it was this. It was preparing me to do this. And so, I'm grateful that you guys let me come out here and share my story. I know John brought us up here, and he... Oh, yeah. See, I forget so much, man. And plus, you guys, I'm... Hey, look. Yeah, so I got the state career, right? And I'm on year 5. April will be 5 years at the state. And so on the 27th of this month, if I don't get high between now and then, I'll have 8 years clean. Okay. And, yeah, thank you. And so I went from the state coordinator of recovery to the state recovery manager. And today I'm the director of recovery for the state of Arkansas.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
That Kurt's old job?
No, it's not Kirk's old job.
Oh.
Kirk was the drug czar.
Oh, I got you. Working on it.
Yeah. Working on it, yeah. I oversee 30 programs. I have a full staff. They call us the Office of Recovery. And it's crazy. And it was the hard work of me and many other people in Arkansas like me who did that. And I'm going to tell you what, my staff, they don't look like normal state staff, Sheriff. They got gang-related face tattoos. They been in the system. I've got one that lost her children to DHS, and her goal is to put peer support within the DHS Children's Court, and we're putting 100 peer specialists in the courts across Arkansas. It's a life that's amazing. So thank you guys for letting me come share. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah. Any questions, thoughts, comments?
Any questions? I know we got one question at least. Man,
a lot of them are working.
this is how my mind was working,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, when Jimmy was sharing, man, and anybody can attest to this. Anybody that's in recovery, you can go someplace that you have never been before. And when you see somebody and you tell them, man, I'm in recovery, immediately they can identify for what you have gone through, what you are going through now. You know? I mean, it happened for me for several times. You know what I mean? You go somewhere, you look for a meeting. I go to Florida, I look for a meeting. You know? I go to New York, I look for a meeting. And you tell them, you know, man, I'm in recovery. You know? Blah, blah, blah. Immediately people walk up to you, man, and welcome you. You know? Make you feel special. Because like he said, man, you know, that don't happen often. You know what I'm saying? You know, we got that commonality, man, you know?
You know, the part Jimmy left out, you're an ordained minister now, a preacher? Yeah, you went he's a, you know, you got your own church, or you do a service, or? Well, I did. You did? I mean, anything's possible. Here's what I like to let you guys know. Look, if you put your recovery first, anything's possible. You know, I don't know what the journey's going to look like, but I know you won't be disappointed. I've never met an old timer yet, or somebody with some clean time that regretted being clean and sober. I haven't met that person yet. They don't exist. And I tell you all the time, a lot of times we get fixed in our head on the get high. You know, I can't imagine life without a beer or a bong hit or a pill or whatever. I'm telling you, I can't imagine what life's going to be like without a day clean right now. Because my best drug get high, how high can you really get? Opiates, you get so high you overdose and die. Or maybe your ultimate high with opiates where you drool on yourself. You know, you drink, you alcohol, you get so high you go into a blackout.
You urinate on yourself.
Yeah. Crack, you get so high you hide in the closet, think the cops are after you. Meth, you get so high you grind your teeth down to nubs. You know, the drug high ain't but so much cannabis. You get so high, you're looking for McDonald's at midnight, drive through, you know. So the get high ain't but so good. But my average daily recovery high is this good. And the recovery high is progressive. The drug high, that's jails, institutions, and death. So here's what I'm saying. Hang in there long enough to experience that recovery high. You follow me? And I'm sure at that point in time, you'll be really satisfied with who you are and where you're at and what you're doing. But it's unlimited where you can go, what you can do, who you can become. And so, like Jim has said, your life experience is training you for your next chapter in your life. Don't let it be for nothing. You follow me? Now, y'all like us coming up in here? Yes. You sure? Yes. By applaud, how much you like us coming up in here? Anybody else coming up in here bringing you this awesome messaging and living proof that you guys can do this? And remember, he did life on the installment plan. We know we got him out of life on the installment plan. I was blessed. I only got arrested 12 times, 4 times in foreign country, all BC, before crack. I've been around a long time, before they sucked you into the criminal justice system. Yeah. But don't think for a minute I know this was going to be my story if I lived. Yeah. So look, you got a variety of where this thing can go and how it can end. Don't cheat yourself out of that, okay? Anybody in here struggling? Anybody? All y'all doing great? You love the sheriff, love the jail, food good? Good. I'm glad we're in the right place, Sheriff. You got the right jail here. Yeah. And uh-oh. You got any last words before we hit it?
Come on, Sheriff.
Yeah. Give me your mic.
I get to see you all when you first come in. And I mean, let's just be honest, it's not your best look. And then I get to see you come into your own. I get to see your skin clear up, your faces fill out, like to get to know the real you, right? All I'm asking is give the world a chance to see that. You know, I'm so proud to see you as you come in here and you realize who you are and you start making plans. Like, I know there's some people in the world that love you that want to see that. So give it a chance on the outside. Let some of those people that love you and have been there and supported you get a chance to see that. And some folks you're going to have to cut off, all right? We know that, right? Some relationships just not good for you, and you're going to have to cut them off, but that's okay too. I hope that I'm showing you that there's some people that out in this world that's not blood, but it'll be thicker than your blood brother. Because they've been where you are. They're not going to judge you. They go through the same things that you do. You know, I haven't heard one person come in here to say that they are not using and they still don't think about it. That's real. But they're making it. So just one day at a time. When you wake up, just do me this favor. When I wake up, I try to read the scripture and try to get my mind and ask God to stay with me and be with me. But just say today I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get high. And then just do it every day. Man, we got some phenomenal people with some phenomenal experiences showing us how good it can be. Life's still going to be life, right? Stuff's still going to happen. But God, to have a support system and people that can see you through that's going to support, going to call you on your shit, right? That's love.
You said what you want. You the chef.
Listen, God is still working on me. But yeah, I mean, that's amazing, right? So just give it a chance. That's all I say. And thank y'all. I can't say thank you enough.
Yeah. Hey, real quick though, any visitors want to say a few words? Joseph, you got anything you want to say, or Chelsea or anybody? Anybody from the outside want to say anything? We got some of Jimmy's books here. Y'all want a book? Jimmy will sign your book, give it to you. Just Sheriff will let you hang out for a minute up here. And Jimmy, what time y'all get up this morning to catch that flight? 3:45. That's like jail time hours, ain't it? So we just as tired as you are. So thank you so much for having us. We'll be back when we get back. But there's he's got a handful of books. If you like one, you can get one.
I want to promote the book, man.
Oh.
I mean, when you look at, I love this. From prison to purpose. You know, they got him in the orange shirt, and then you look at the back of it. You know, he's a different individual. But what I understand too, you ask a lot of people, what's your purpose in life? They can't tell you. You know, they can't tell you what their purpose is. It's like we just existing and we are not living. You know, so this book right here, man, touches all the different corners. You know, it can be something on the outside, and it also can be something on the inside. This book can touch your soul. You know, I know what my purpose is today. You know, and I've been to institutions and individuals can't tell me what their purpose is. You know what I'm saying? If you here, you got a purpose. You got a purpose. Sometimes you got to dig. You got to dig to find it. But it's there. You got one. All right? Get Jimmy to sign this book for you.
Yeah, I think it's enough for everybody to get one if they want one. Okay. Thanks, folks. We'll be back, I guess, next week or whenever we come back. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Jimmy, you look sharp on that picture.